What really happens to your bank account when you die? Most people have a will. Many people have life insurance. Some even have an estate plan they've spent hundreds or even thousands of dollars putting together. But here's what many retirees don't realize. Your bank account may not be distributed the way you expect after you die. If your beneficiaries' account ownership or paperwork aren't set up correctly, your loved ones could face delays, confusion, and unnecessary legal hurdles at a time when they're already grieving. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. I'm going to walk you through what actually happens to your bank account after you pass away. We'll cover what happens the moment the bank is notified, whether your spouse or children can still access the money, what happens if you have a will, what happens if you don't, how beneficiary designations work, the most common mistakes families make, and a few simple steps that can make the process much smoother. My goal isn't to scare you. It's to help you protect the people you love from unnecessary stress during one of the most difficult times in their lives. Let's start with what happens first. The moment the bank learns someone has passed away. Many people assume a bank automatically knows when someone dies. In reality, that's not usually how it works. In many cases, the bank only becomes aware after a family member, an executor, an attorney, or another authorized person notifies them and provides the required documentation, such as a certified death certificate. Once the bank has been notified, its responsibility changes immediately. Its job is no longer just to protect your money. It's also responsible for making sure the money is released only to the people who are legally entitled to receive it. That's why the bank may place restrictions on certain accounts while it verifies ownership, beneficiary information, and any legal documents that may apply. To a grieving family, this can feel frustrating. But from the bank's perspective, it's following the law and protecting everyone's interests. Here's something that surprises many people. Not every bank account is treated the same after someone dies. And understanding the difference could save your family months of unnecessary stress. Not all bank accounts follow the same rules. Let's imagine three different people. Each has money sitting in a bank. Each passes away. But what happens next is completely different. The first person owns an individual checking account with only their name on it. The second has a joint account with their spouse. The third has an individual account but has named a payable on death beneficiary. Those three families may have very different experiences. That's why advice you hear from a friend or neighbor isn't always accurate for your situation. The details matter. The type of account matters. Whether a beneficiary has been named matters. Even state laws may affect how certain situations are handled. That's why it's so important to understand how your own accounts are set up, instead of assuming they'll automatically work the way you expect. Let's look at the most common type first. What happens to an individual bank account? If a bank account is in one person's name only, the bank will generally need to determine who has the legal authority to receive the funds. What happens next depends on several factors. Did the account have a payable on death beneficiary? Was there a valid will? Does state law provide a simplified process for smaller estates? Or will the estate need to go through probate before the money can be distributed? Those answers aren't always the same for every family. That's why two people with similar bank balances can have completely different experiences after they pass away. One family may receive access relatively quickly. Another may wait much longer while legal requirements are completed. This is one reason financial professionals often encourage people to review their accounts every few years, especially after major life events like marriage, divorce, the birth of grandchildren, or the loss of a loved one. A few minutes spent reviewing your paperwork today could save your family countless hours later. Now, many viewers have the same question at this point. What if my husband or wife is still alive? That's where things begin to work very differently. We'll talk about joint accounts next. because many retirees are surprised to learn that simply being married doesn't always answer every question about what happens to money after one spouse passes away. What happens to a joint bank account? This is probably one of the biggest areas of confusion. Many people believe that if they're married, every bank account automatically belongs to the surviving spouse after one person dies. Sometimes that's true, sometimes it isn't. It depends on how the account was opened, how it's titled, the agreement you signed with the bank, and in some cases, state law. That's why it's important not to make assumptions. If you have a joint account, it's worth asking your bank exactly how that account is structured and what would happen if one account owner passed away. Having that conversation now is much easier than leaving your family to figure it out later. But if there's a beneficiary on the account, now let's talk about something that can make a big difference for many families. Some bank accounts allow you to name what's commonly called a payable on death or POD beneficiary. Think of it this way. While you're alive, the money is completely yours. The person you've named cannot withdraw it, spend it, or make decisions about it simply because you've listed them as a beneficiary. But after your death, if all the bank's requirements are met, that designation may allow the funds to pass directly to the named beneficiary without becoming part of the probate process. For many families, that can make accessing the money much simpler. But here's an important point. Simply naming a beneficiary isn't enough. That information should be reviewed every few years. Life changes. People get married. Families grow. Relationships change. Sometimes a beneficiary passes away before the account owner. I've seen situations where someone filled out beneficiary paperwork 20 years earlier and never looked at it again. Their intentions changed over the years. Unfortunately, the paperwork never did. Reviewing those designations from time to time is one of the simplest financial checkups you can do. What happens if there's no beneficiary? Now let's look at the opposite situation. Suppose there's no beneficiary listed. What happens then? In many cases, the funds become part of the person's estate. That doesn't necessarily mean the family loses the money. It simply means additional legal steps may be required before it can be distributed. Depending on the circumstances, this could involve probate or another process provided under state law. The timeline can vary quite a bit. Some estates are settled relatively quickly. Others may take considerably longer, especially if there are disagreements, missing documents, outstanding debts, or questions about who should inherit the assets. This is one reason families sometimes become frustrated. They know the money exists, but they can't immediately access it. Meanwhile, life continues. Funeral expenses need to be paid. Utility bills still arrive. Mortgage payments don't stop. Insurance premiums may still be due. The emotional stress of losing someone is already overwhelming. Financial uncertainty only adds another layer of pressure. A common mistake many families make. One of the first things some family members do after losing a loved one is try to use that person's debit card to pay immediate expenses. It's understandable. They're trying to handle funeral arrangements or pay household bills. But this is where families can accidentally create additional problems. Once someone has passed away, using their debit card or signing their name on financial transactions may not be permitted, depending on the circumstances. Instead of making assumptions, it's always better to contact the financial institution and ask what steps should be taken. A short phone call can prevent a great deal of confusion later. Here's another question I hear surprisingly often. What if nobody tells the bank that someone has died? At first, that might sound like a simple way to avoid delays. In reality, it often creates even bigger problems. And that's exactly what we'll talk about next. We'll also answer another important question many retirees ask. What happens to Social Security deposits, automatic bill payments, and online banking after someone passes away? Those are details many families don't think about until they're suddenly faced with them. What happens if nobody tells the bank? This is a question I hear more often than you might expect. Some families wonder, if we don't notify the bank right away, can we keep using the account until everything settles down? While that might seem like the easiest solution, it's generally not a good idea. Financial institutions have procedures they're required to follow once they're notified that an account holder has passed away. Trying to delay that process or continue using an account without proper authority can create unnecessary complications for the family later. Instead, it's usually much better to begin the process the right way from the start. Yes, it may involve paperwork. Yes, it may take a little time. But it protects everyone involved and helps avoid misunderstandings that could delay settling the estate. Now let's answer another question many families don't think about until it's happening. What happens to Social Security deposits? Imagine this. A monthly Social Security payment is scheduled to arrive just days after someone passes away. Can the family keep it? The answer depends on several factors, including when the payment was issued and what period it covers. In some situations, payments made after a person's death may need to be returned. That's why it's important not to assume that every deposit appearing in the account belongs to the estate. If you're unsure whether a payment should remain in the account, contact the Social Security Administration or the financial institution before spending those funds. A simple phone call today could prevent a difficult situation later. What about automatic bill payments? Now think about all the payments that happen automatically every month. Your electricity, internet, streaming services, gym memberships, insurance premiums, credit card payments, mortgage payments. Many retirees have dozens of automatic payments leaving their accounts every month without even thinking about them. Those payments don't necessarily stop the moment someone passes away. Some may continue until they're cancelled. Others may be rejected if the account becomes restricted. That's why one of the first things families should do is make a list of every automatic payment connected to the account. Review each one carefully. Decide which services should continue and which should be cancelled. Taking an hour to do this can prevent unnecessary charges from continuing for weeks or even months. Can someone still use the debit card? This is another question that creates a lot of confusion. A son may think, I'm only buying groceries for mom. A daughter may say, I'm just paying dad's final utility bill. The intentions are usually good, but once someone has passed away, using their debit card or online banking credentials may not be appropriate unless you have the legal authority to act on behalf of the estate. That's why it's always safer to speak with the bank before using the account. Never assume that having the card or knowing the PIN automatically gives someone permission to continue making purchases. What about online banking? Here's something many people overlook. Today, most of us manage nearly everything online. Checking balances, moving money, paying bills, downloading statements. After someone passes away, access to online banking may eventually change depending on the account type and the bank's procedures. If you're the person helping settle a loved one's affairs, it's a good idea to download important statements and organize financial records once you have the proper authority to do so. Good records make every step that follows much easier. Now we've talked about what happens after someone dies. But let's shift our focus for a moment. Because the biggest question isn't what happens afterward. The better question is, what can you do today to make things easier for the people you love? There are a few simple steps that can save your family an incredible amount of stress, confusion, and unnecessary delays. Let's go through those together. 5 simple things you can do today to make life easier for your family. If there's one message I hope you take away from today's video, it's this. Estate planning isn't just about deciding who gets your money. It's about making life a little easier for the people you'll leave behind. The last thing your family should be worrying about while planning a funeral is whether they can access important financial information or pay essential expenses. Here are 5 practical steps that can help. 1. Review your beneficiaries. If your bank allows beneficiary designations, make sure yours reflects your current wishes. Ask yourself, is the right person listed? Is that person still living? Has anything changed since I filled out the paperwork? Marriage, divorce, the birth of grandchildren, the loss of a loved one. Any major life event is a good reason to review your beneficiary information. Many people complete these forms once and never think about them again. A quick review every few years can make a meaningful difference. 2. Know how your accounts are titled. Take a few minutes to understand exactly how each account is set up. Is it an individual account? A joint account? Does it have a payable on death beneficiary? Every account may be structured differently, even if they're all at the same bank. Don't assume they're all handled the same way. If you're unsure, ask your bank to explain each account in plain language. That's what they're there for. 3. Keep important information organized. One of the greatest gifts you can leave your family isn't money, it's organization. Make sure someone you trust knows where to find important documents such as your will, insurance information, bank account details, contact information for your attorney or financial advisor if you have one, a list of recurring bills and financial accounts. You don't have to share passwords or sensitive information if you're not comfortable doing so. But letting someone know where important records are kept can save them countless hours during an already difficult time. 4. Review automatic payments. Take a look at your monthly bank statement. You may be surprised how many subscriptions and automatic payments are connected to your account. Streaming services, phone bills, insurance, utilities, charitable donations, memberships. Create a simple list. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just knowing what leaves your account each month can help your family identify what needs attention if something happens to you. 5. Have the conversation nobody likes to have. I know this isn't an easy topic. Most families avoid it because talking about death feels uncomfortable. But avoiding the conversation doesn't make the need disappear. Sit down with your spouse. Talk with your adult children if it's appropriate. Let them know where important documents are located. Explain who should be contacted first. Answer the questions now while you can. One honest conversation today can spare your family a tremendous amount of uncertainty later. One final thought. None of us knows what tomorrow will bring. But we can prepare today. Whether your estate is modest or substantial, whether you have one bank account or several, taking a little time now can make an enormous difference for the people you love. If today's video encouraged you to review your own financial plans, don't put it off. Set aside an hour this week. Review your accounts. Update any outdated information. And if there's something you're unsure about, don't hesitate to ask your bank or a qualified estate planning professional for guidance based on your personal situation and the laws where you live. A small amount of preparation today can save your family weeks or even months of confusion in the future. If you found this video helpful, please share it with someone you care about. A spouse, a parent, a sibling, or a friend who's planning for retirement. It may answer questions they didn't even know they should be asking. And if you're new to Benjamin Brooks, I'd love to welcome you to the channel. Every day I share practical, easy-to-understand videos about retirement, Social Security, Medicare, banking, taxes, estate planning, and the financial decisions that matter most as we get older. My goal is simple: to help you protect what you've worked so hard to build and make informed decisions with confidence. Remember, knowledge doesn't cost you anything, but not knowing can. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.